Hello, everyone, and welcome to week three. Week three, as stated in the week three document, is going to build upon what we did last week in sort of technical terms in relation to Flash. It's also going to introduce a couple new ideas. In a nutshell, one is using different types of properties in your animation, and we're going to work with the properties window. And the other is kind of a new idea called frame by frame animation. So you're going to have two exercises as well as your first animation viewing critique, which is on a film called The Street. Please read over that week three document because that sort of goes over everything we might need. So let's head into this first exercise, and it is called Simple Properties. I'm going to sort of go through this step by step as I did last week. Again, you can be using the videos and the step by step, or potentially just the videos. So step one, open Flash. I've opened Flash here. Step two, we're going to sort of find out which type of file we're going to create. In this case, we're going to create an ActionScript 3.0 file. This exercise is introducing a few things, as I said. Dealing with the properties, which lives up here. Again, I'm in the classic workspace, and I have my properties over here. Often the properties and the library are going to sort of be two tabs that are working together over here on the right-hand side. And we're also introducing this idea of layers in the timeline. When we worked last week, we really only worked with one layer because we were making a very, very simple tween. Once you get into more complex animations where you want to separate out different portions of the animations, you're going to want to utilize these layers, and that'll make sense here pretty soon. So it says on step 4, double click on the layer 1 in the timeline and name it red square. I want to be organized. Always want to be organized. So I'm going to name that red square. Probably see where this is going in terms of organization. Step 6, step 5 at the top where there are various menu items, insert new symbol. This should be review from last week. We're going to name this symbol red square. And as it says, and also a review from last week, we're going to make that thing a graphic. Okay. Click OK. And I'm going to get my tools up. The next step, it says, is choose the rectangle tool in the toolbox, and then click on the fill color and choose a shade of red. Also make the stroke color to none. Remember, this was sort of what I had to, because of my screen capture, make this appear this way. So yours probably is going to be a long, skinny one, boxed on the side. So I have the stroke color set to none. I have my rectangular tool, and I have the fill color set to a red. Okay. It says click and hold and draw a square, and we can draw a perfect square by holding down Shift on our keyboard. You'll see that if I just do this, I'm not holding Shift down, I can make that sort of more rectangular. If I hold down Shift, I hopefully will make a square. I am going to, like I did on that last week, I'm going to center that on that hash mark. Okay, doesn't have to be perfect, but I can also use the arrows on my keyboard to sort of move that around. So that should be review. We're making a very sort of basic graphic here. Next sort of section is called creating the tween with rotation. It says click on the scene 1 on the left. Remember, when we insert a symbol, in this case a graphic, we've gone into the library. We're not in our sort of main scene. So I'm going to click back to my scene. Over here now in my library, I have red square. Okay, it's ready to be used, and I'm going to use it. So step 12, it says take the graphic from the library called red square, drop it down on the stage on the bottom left. Okay, so I'm going to grab it and drop it bottom left. Okay, it says move up to frame 60 in the timeline and control click on that. It says a menu will appear. What we're going to do is insert a frame. Choose any, step 16 here, choose any frame in between 1 and 60, and we're going to click and hold. Sorry, control click and hold, and we're going to create a motion tween. Okay, so this should be review from last week in terms of how to create a motion tween. Okay. Now it says click directly on that frame 60 with the black arrow, the selection tool, grab the red square and move it to the top right of the stage. Okay, so this should be fairly review from last week. So I'm going to choose that. And if you remember, we sort of created a basic tween. Okay. Now, here's the sort of different or the sort of new aspect of this. We currently have a motion tween set. When we have a motion tween, we can affect how that tweens, how it moves. Okay, in this case, we're going to do some rotation on it. So it says, step 22, choose the Properties tab right here. Okay. It says if you don't see your Properties tab, go to Window Properties. And then under Rotation, choose Rotation 3 times. Okay, that's right here. So I'm just going to literally type in 3 times. What that does is attach that property, and there's really no other way to describe it, but a property, something that is defining how that tween and that movement is working. It attaches it to that tween. Okay, so if we move our playhead back and forth now, we should see that rotate 3 times. Okay, if you click on this tween, you'll see the rotation happening. You can choose clockwise, counterclockwise, whatever you want. But you'll see that we have a certain amount of control in relation to that. You'll also notice, and just sort of as an aside, when you're looking at this tween, you'll notice this little circle here in the center. That's kind of that hash mark that we were talking about when we were in the library that sort of centers the elements, or in this case, the symbol and the graphic to the path. Okay, so you'll see it rotating on that axis. Okay, now it says next, our sort of third section of this exercise is creating new layers, symbols, and tweens. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the video quickly and make some of these other symbols, in this case graphics, and sort of come back basically to, I believe, yeah, step 26, 27, so that we can sort of see how these layers work. Okay, I've skipped ahead just a tiny bit. I've basically made 2 more symbols, which is green square and purple square over here. They will sort of be steps. Where are we? Sorry. 26. I basically did 26, but I want to come back to steps 24 just because we're going to be creating a new layer, and I don't think we've done that yet. So it says step 24, create a new layer in the timeline and call it purple square. So I'm going to hit this little sort of piece of paper. I don't know how else to describe it. It's called new layer. If you double click, mine's just happens to be layer 4 because I've inserted other layers and deleted them. But I should be able to double click on that and name that purple square. I'm going to insert another layer and call that green square. Okay. Now, for step 27, it says create motion tweens across the same 60 frames on the respective layers. Rotate each of these symbols as well. So what I want you to do, and this isn't necessarily in the instructions, is just sort of put these in different spots. So I'm going to put the purple square down here. I am going to, because red square sort of occupies 60 frames, the movie sort of occupies that 60 frames now. So I don't have to go up to that step, or that frame 60, and sort of insert a frame to pull that movie along the timeline that far. I can skip that step and simply control click on this and create motion tween. Okay. Again, I can skip that step because I've already done it for the red square. So I can move this up to the top right. Okay. And I am going to click on the Properties tab and rotate this 3 times as well. Okay, so I'm simply redoing kind of what I did on that red square. Okay, I'm going to click over here on the green square. Find green square. I'll put green square in the middle. I'm going to control click. I'm going to create a motion tween, and on green square I'll just move it straight up. Okay. Please do it similar as I've done it. Okay, the only thing we need to do at this point is add the rotation to the green square. Okay, so we can have 3 rotating squares moving up, going across the same 60 frames. Okay. One thing that I want you to sort of notice in particular about layers, and we will get it to about this point to sort of understand this, is that if you've ever worked with something like Photoshop, you should know that the sort of hierarchy of these layers is based on sort of where they are inside the timeline here. So here we have green square on top. It is actually on top of the other two. If I were to click hold and pull that in between, it then goes in between there. Okay, I don't necessarily need you guys to do anything particular in terms of that, but please note that those layers sort of represent a hierarchy of where they appear in the animation in terms of spatially. Last, we're going to control test movie. We're going to test it in Flash Professional, and here we go. You'll note that it wants to go, go, go. Your movie should look something very similar to this. Please also note that this is a SWF. I had lots of different types of files being handed in, some XFL files, some .fla files. These are not the types of files I want. I want your SWF. Okay, your SWF. So remember, we're going to save this document, and I have it called your first name, last name, _ simple properties. And here we're saving it as a SWF, but when we test the movie, or sorry, we were saving it as .fla there, but when we test the movie, we get it as a SWF. Okay, this is what you should hand in, not your .fla files, none of that. I simply want your SWF file. So that's it for simple properties. The idea being that we can sort of affect how this thing looks, how it sort of moves across the screen. And you'll note, if you haven't already, that there's other things we can sort of play with over here. And we'll get into color effect, in particular something like alpha, where we can sort of fade things in and out. But the idea being that you create a simple tween and then you affect it in some way. You change its properties. So this is sort of the beginning of understanding how we can play with those properties, and we're going to be doing more complicated stuff as we move through this.